I've got to change. What's happening is Jason Littrell from the Hospitality Strategy Lab. I'm here with Rob Ontell from Ontell Associates. Rob is a personal friend. Our kids play together, and Rob knows a lot about food. And because he used to own a restaurant, he has been in the trenches. Rob, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to be here.
All right. Well, so we've had many conversations over years. Give me some bad legal advice.
Some bad legal advice. Don't hire an attorney until the last possible second when everything's gone wrong and you want the attorney to come in and fix it within the next week.
No, that's good. That's good advice. I was looking for some bad advice.
No. Yeah. Exactly. That's you've been talking to a lot of the people I speak with. Then, yeah.
So what is good advice? How would you recommend somebody open up a restaurant in, say, New York City?
You need to engage with your professionals pretty much immediately. Most people have a broker, they'll have a general contractor, they'll have an architect, but they'll forget about their CPAs and their attorneys. I think probably the attorneys are the last ones that usually get involved, and it'll be after an LOI has been negotiated for a space. It'll be sometimes after a lease has been signed, which is, really, really terrible. And it'll be everything will have been done via LegalZoom. All of the money will have been raised. And then there will be a problem that will have to come in and resolve, wherein a person will think that they will have saved money, but will really have cost themselves a ton of time and a ton of money.
LOI? What is LOI?
Sorry, it's a letter of intent. It's a term sheet that you negotiate with a landlord for the space.
Okay, why is it so hard to open up a restaurant in New York?
There's a lot of red tape out there. New York is extremely expensive. There's a lot of unknowns. If you're a line cook, if you're a sous chef, if you haven't been intimately familiar with opening a restaurant to begin with, and that's not just from a cooking standpoint or running a restaurant standpoint, you don't really know how to open a restaurant. There is so much that goes into a restaurant opening from the very beginning when you're first conceptualizing a restaurant that you need to kind of get all of your ducks in a row, whether it be from, like we said, your term sheet, whether it be from your pro formas, whether it be from your corporate organization, whether it be from how you're raising money, whether debt versus equity. It's a crash course, and nobody teaches you how to do it until you hire the correct professionals to really go through it with you.
Do you run your clients through a checklist, like in the beginning, where you're like, hey, here's the things that we have to consider, like your LOI, your lease stuff, your ADA compliance, stuff like that?
100%, yes. It's more of a conversation than just here's a checklist, right? It's an ongoing conversation over the course of weeks, months, until we get everything, and the timing is important. We kind of have a clock behind the scenes where we'll reach out, because a first time operator is not necessarily going to concern themselves with employment compliance from the very start. We'll mention it, and then once they sign a lease, once they've been building out, once they're close to hiring staff, that's when we'll start mentioning stuff like that. So we don't want to overload operators, especially first time operators, because there's a lot of information. But we kind of have, and by we, I'm talking about, I work with my brother Mike, who are a small operation. We have a couple of behind the scenes paralegal, and a few people that help us out, and some co-counsel, but generally a small operation. But, we have a internal timeline for each of our clients that we try to spoon feed as much as possible.
What are the main causes of delays with opening?
It's the build out takes longer than expected. You go in and, you've negotiated your lease, you walk through the premises a couple of times. You don't necessarily look at, let's say, your venting, your plumbing, your electrical, all of the different things that are kind of behind the, in the walls, in the floors, your drainage, all of that kind of stuff.
My God, all this stuff is so sexy. It's so like romantic, like how you're putting it all together.
It's very romantic. That's what I say.
So like
we have a saying. We have a saying at Ontell Associates, and we're the fun police. You're not allowed to have fun with us. this is all the real sexy stuff that everybody really gets into their restaurant for, the restaurant business for. But in reality, it's what makes or breaks a business. And we're not even talking about the Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. But
Okay.
yeah, exactly. That's where the real fun begins. The math, baby. Yeah. But anyway, so the build out is where it gets real difficult, and you go in and, for instance, I had a client go in and take over a diner that was in Brooklyn for decades, and they went in, they didn't take a look at their venting, and they realized it needed a full, it was fully gunked up, and they needed to rebuild it from scratch, and that cost them another $100,000, and it took another few months to build out.
Damn, that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like, I've been in this to go to making drinks. I should open. You know what this place really needs? You know what this neighborhood really needs is another bar. And I had no representation, and we just made every mistake that we could possibly make. And long story short, I ended up getting sued over something unrelated. We prevailed. I mean, it was a spurious lawsuit.
All of the above. So we work with, straight, the first time operator who's been looking at what their boss does and working in multiple different, locations, front of house, back of house, whoever, and saying, hey, look, I think I could do this better. And then they go in and they say, Rob, what do I do? How do I start a restaurant? How do I start a bar? How do I start a catering business? That type of thing, all the way through dozens of locations all over the country, in abroad, et cetera. So it really runs the gamut. And that's what I find extremely interesting, because everybody has their own, difficulties and has their own thoughts about how to do things. Runs the practice runs the gamut. So it's across the board. Why is the restaurant, like what specifically? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as an operator, you can't. It's not possible. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? With the city, there's also the federal and the state schemes, right? Regulatory schemes. And that's on top of all of the difficulties that we're talking about when it comes to, just running a restaurant. You're, keeping your COGS in line, keeping your labor in line, which all interplays with the various different laws that come down. And it's extremely difficult. It's almost, I find it to be, as someone who did operate for a little bit of time, it was only a couple of years. It was not that long, but I do have kind of knowledge or kind of firsthand knowledge about how difficult it is to truly run a hospitality business in the city. And the answer to the question is that, I know I keep harping on this, but it's really important to get your team in place. And your team does not just mean your front of house, your back of house. If you have multiple locations, your DO, your GM, whatever, but it's all of your professionals as well. So you're not, from an architectural standpoint, you're not vetting building codes, right? That's not something that anybody would attempt to do, but people do attempt to kind of look at the, let's say, New York hospitality wage order, or, they try to chat GPT it, or they try to look at an article here or there. Am I paying somebody properly? Am I ADA compliant? How do I vet these federal, state, city statutes? You can't. You need an attorney to teach you how to do that. You need, to do your books and learn what your numbers are. You need an accountant to do that, a CPA to do that. So it's getting your professionals straight. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm. It absolutely does. It is. It does. That's my business. And I have to, be up on that on a regular basis. Otherwise, what's the advice that I'm giving my clients, right? But that's something that I sit in front of my computer here in my office and do on a regular basis. I'm not trying to figure out, what the new dish is going to be. I'm not trying to figure out there's the dishwasher broke down. What do I do? I have 3 people that called out sick because there's flu going around. There's 100 different things that an operator is trying to do. And that's why you need your specific provider that knows these things. But that being said, to your point, what people don't realize also is unless you have a hospitality specific professional or a hospitality specific software, and even if you do, it still makes things extremely difficult. Like, for instance, ADP, right? You're putting in your various different hours, you're putting in your overtime. ADP, it's good information in, good information out, bad information in, bad information out. You have to feed it, state specific overtime rules. You have to feed it state specific or, state or city specific, like spread of hours. Otherwise it doesn't do the job properly, which is why you need to be looking for hospitality specific things. I don't know if
like that.
I'm not sure if we're connected or not.
You there? Oh my God. I'm having bandwidth issues. You there? I can hear you. Yeah, I guess I can hear you, but okay.
Hey.
All right. Well, this is kind of a cock up a little bit.
Are we reconnected? I can't hear you.
I'm using too much internet. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the thing and figure out what's going on. But you can see me?
Still can't hear you. There we go. I can see you. Now I can hear you. Technology, gotta love it. Is this on my? Okay. I don't know what's happening. Got it. Okay. All right. So I have my phone on do not disturb. So just let me know if you want to do it. Got it. Okay. Just keep me posted. Yeah.
Okay. How's that?
Dude.
Check. Yep. I can hear you.
Okay. Good. Awesome.
Okay. And with the magic of AI and automation, we're just going to cut that whole part out.
Fantastic. Yep. Love it.
And we'll just finish the rest. We'll just record the rest without going live. That's fine. It's okay. I don't have such a huge audience anyways, but like it'll chop it up into like 1 minute segments. So, all right. So what are some things that people should look out when they're looking at their leases, their first leases?
Wow. So there's a few really important things that you need to look out for. If you read Setting the Table by Danny Meyer, he's going to say, the assignment clause. From a legal standpoint, from a lawyer standpoint, we're always, again, the no fun police. So what happens if the everything tanks, right? Nobody wants to think about what happens if the business doesn't succeed. So what are your outs? You have to look at the assignment clause. You have to make sure that it's reasonable. You have to make sure that it's market. You have to make sure that you're able to get out of the lease and sell it for key money if you need to without paying your landlord an arm and a leg. That's number one. Number two, your good guy clause. Incredibly important. Those are essentially your two escape valves. So you want to make sure that you're not losing too much time and too much money if you need to shutter the business. Other than that, there's all this, you're going to kind of look at your free rent period when that starts, making sure that your landlord, that there isn't anything that's held up, that holds up your build out during the free rent period. So if the landlord has to get a temporary certificate of occupancy or certificate of occupancy to allow you to start pulling your permits, so you want to align that with your free rent period. Your tenant work is important, making sure that you can do what you set out to do without too much landlord interference, making sure that they're not sitting there, approving the colors of the walls or the material you're using on your banquettes.
Is that a thing? Do landlords want that?
No, not necessarily. The good ones don't. But, there are landlords that want to kind of hold any kind of leverage that they have over their tenant so that in year 5 of a 10-year lease, when the lease is under market, they have something that they can hold over the tenant to either kick them out or to get them to renegotiate to get a higher rent, something like that. So yeah, and that is something that happens a lot more frequently than you'd expect.
Are there, do you work with a lot of mom and pop landlords or are you working with a lot of like private equity corporate landlords?
Both. It's New York is a crazy town in that, you could be working with a mom and pop landlord that's owned the building in Chinatown, in Greenpoint, all in Williamsburg for 40 years because their parents bought it for a song in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And then you have, the giants of the industry, that have portfolios in the billions. And I could be on the phone with one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So it's really, it completely runs the gamut.
Is it an urban myth that there's an advantage for landlords to have fallow property? Or does it matter to them whether they lease a place or not?
I've not fully dived down that deeply into the tax codes as to why, or the government, why they might be interested in having an unleased property. But it does seem that, after year 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the landlord not, year 4 of having an unleased property, and then the landlord still insisting upon an insane rent. It is fully unclear to me why that is the case, but there has to be some sort of monetary incentive or governmental incentive or tax incentive as to why that's the case, because otherwise it makes no sense to me.
Well, I remember like a recent case is Lucy's on Tompkins Square. They've been there for 20, 30 years, like an immigrant story where she, like this old Polish woman, or this young at the time, that she bought this bar and named it after herself, Lucy's. And then after like 25, 30 years, some private equity firm bought the building and then jacked up her rent to $25,000 a month, as if it was a mystery of what was going to happen there. And like, that's not an uncommon story. Right.
It's extremely common going through something exactly like that in Brooklyn right now, where there was a lease. It was a extremely favorable lease. The tenant has been there for decades, since the 90s, and now the large landlord that just purchased the property wants to jack up their rent significantly. But the idea is that it's not like a residential rent controlled, rent stabilized property. What happens is, I believe in those cases, is that a large real estate firm will go in and buy, and they want to reset the rents. They want to reset the rents as high as they possibly can. So in those particular cases, if the commercial property lies fallow for a couple of years, okay, it's a cost of doing business. They've probably, it's in their spreadsheets. They can let it sit for a while. You're dealing with large, companies, large corporations, that they're not going to worry about the rent for a year or two, right? They're going to worry about resetting the rent for the entire market. And then, that kind of has a knock-on effect all around the neighborhood, where the rents will then be jacked up, and they'll, and they're one location they're not worried about. It's their 15, 20 other buildings in the same neighborhood that they really are trying to plan for 5, 10, 15 years down the road, where they're going to price out the mom and the pops and the really interesting hospitality businesses for another, I don't know, Chase Bank or another
Whole Foods or whatever.
Fill in the blank. Exactly. Fill in the blank.
Big box.
Chain. Right.
Yeah.
Big box, or even a chain store. Do
you see anything? What do the tea leaves say for the Mamdani administration?
I mean, I think it's really early. It's really difficult to tell. I don't know. I'm not particularly bullish on how it's going to affect the hospitality industry. I'm hopeful, right? And I do know some clients and interesting operators that he has reached out to. But that being said, I don't necessarily know that the whole, that his constituency or his thought process is, his driving force is really the operator. I think it's kind of the opposite. So I think things are going to get more difficult for the operator over the next 4 years.
Yeah, I think people kind of overstate.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it sucks as if it's not hard enough already. But I think people overstate the amount of power that a mayor has, because not only did we elect a Democratic socialist and the people that are like really into that, like especially the middle and lower classes, but we also elected a huge, massive opposition to anything that he wants to accomplish. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, this isn't a gossip show, but if you had to advise, how would you advise your clients to stay out of court? Like when you do occasionally go to court, like what kind of stuff are you in court for?
Well, my background is as a litigator, a commercial litigator across all industries for the first 10 or so years of my career. I've been practicing for about 20 now, a little under 20. And so I'm in court relatively frequently, or I'm litigating relatively frequently. And, court is 5% of litigation or so. But there's the commercial litigation, there's the contractual difficulties that you'll have with vendors, with your partners, with your equity holders, with anybody that you potentially sign a contract with. And I think once I go through all of these, I think there's like one overarching idea as to how to stay out of court. There's your federal practice where it's there's my federal practice where There's your wage and hour issues, your discrimination, your harassment issues, your ADA issues. That's kind of what I see mostly for hospitality practices. And then there's your landlord tenant court. Your landlord is your most important relationship that you have, that a hospitality operator has. And then there's the administrative difficulties, violations, etc. And the answer to the question is, how do you stay out of court? And is right, prior proper planning, right? Like, be a Boy Scout about things. Like, do things in advance. So you have to worry about your compliance issues in advance. Your planning is going to, and the work that you put into your various different contracts and doing them properly first is going to save you so much time and effort down the line. And that goes to I think my entire thesis of this podcast, which is, get your professionals in order as early as is humanly possible. Everybody thinks that they're saving money in advance by not doing that, and you're really costing yourself both your time and incredible amounts of money in the future.
Yeah, you referenced Danny Meyer's book, Setting the Table. Another thing that comes to mind when you talk about that is the E-Myth. Have you read this one, E-Myth? It's about a pie baker. This guy's like, he's like a pie baker. He's an expert craftsman. And then he's like, I'm going to open up a bakery. And then he learns all the things that he doesn't know, that he needs to know about opening a bakery that has nothing to do with baking pies. I've seen this a lot where people just get screwed because they don't have this stuff in order. I mean, like, my mentality when I was opening up a bar was like, we're going to make a bunch of money. We're going to get in the local rags, and I'm going to make a nice, decent middle class living. It was like 18-hour days, stressful, and I had just had Jasper at that point. So I had other people running the business. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. I think the driving force of starting this firm and getting into the hospitality industry is that I'm a hospitality nerd at my core, right? I want to. There's a reason why I live in New York City, and the vast majority of why I live here and put up with the difficulties of living in the city is because I want to go and support my local baker, my local, coffee shop, my local restaurant, my local, restaurant, all the way from a all day cafe to my Michelin, to Michelin star and everything in between, your food trucks, my pop-ups. And, I want to take your burden on, right? Like, let me take the burden on from a legal and compliance standpoint, so that you can go and bake your pies, right? And I'll tell you what to do. I'll tell you how to make it as smooth as possible. It's not going to be easy, right? I can't lighten all of your load, but from a legal context, that is why I do what I do. I want to go eat good food. That's what I want to do, and I want to help people, and I want to help my clients do that without worrying about, what's the new minimum wage, which next year, by the way, we're not going to know what that is until October, because it's pegged to inflation, right? I want to take on that burden for people and let you do your thing.
Love it. All right. Is there anything, how do we find Ontell Associates? How do people find you?
You can find me at my website. It's www.ontell, ONTELL, and associates, .com, all spelled out. So www.ontellassociates.com. You can call me, text me, email me. My office is at 48th and Madison. I'm a pretty open book, just pretty easy to get into contact with.
All right. And I would highly recommend that you go dine with Rob, because we went out with our kids like a couple weeks ago and he literally ordered the menu, and I had no idea what it was. And he was just like, that's that. And you carefully explained to me every little thing that was on the dish. And I was like, how do you know?
I'm a restaurant nerd. That's usually my order. I get a menu and I say yes. And then there you go.
And there was also 3 young children at the table, and it still worked out. It was amazing. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob. This has been the Hospitality Strategy Lab. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much. And I will see you next time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Hold on a second.